Have you ever bought an old lamp at a thrift store just for the tiny chance that by rubbing it you might free a 3-wish granting genie? Yeah, me neither. So, genies. They are friendly magical companions trapped in a lamp, eager to grant your every wish, right?
3 wishes to be exact.
Maybe in the Western world. But what if I told you this story started very differently? Let's rewind. Jinn, or genies if you're from the Western world, come from ancient Arabian folklore and Islamic beliefs. They're invisible, made of smokeless fire, and contrary to Western lore, they don't grant wishes.
So you get nothing!
In pre-Islamic lore, jinn lurked everywhere. Deserts, caves, ruined temples, and even beneath the ocean. Some were friendly and helpful, while others might possess you, haunt abandoned places, or ruin your day just for fun. The classic, be careful what you wish for, it's original jinn lore.
Hey, can you make me a prince?
There is a lot of gray area in make me a prince. I could just make you a prince.
Oh, no.
Right, you'd be snuggled up with that dude for the rest of your life.
Historically, jinn were often blamed for mental illness and sleep paralysis. Understandable, considering they were said to inhabit remote, desolate areas. Common places for dehydration, mirages, and lack of medical aid. This might explain why tales of jinn trickery and shape-shifting also stuck. While jinn are naturally invisible, they were said to appear when summoned, often in the shape of an animal or with eerie humanoid features. When Islam came along, the Quran clarified their role. Jinn were no longer seen as minor gods or vague supernatural forces. They were redefined as an entirely separate race of beings, created by God and gifted with free will. They could be good, evil, or just vibing somewhere in between. They could even be into break dancing, apparently. And yeah, some went fully rogue. Case in point, the Islamic version of Satan, Iblis, who is not a fallen angel at all, but a rebellious jinn gone astray. So how did these wildfire spirits become, well, supernatural collectibles in fancy home decor? I guess we've all heard of the wise King Solomon, right?
I've definitely heard of salmon before. Didn't know you were a king, though.
I said Solomon, not salmon. Right, so King Solomon of Israel, son of King David, yes, that David from David and Goliath, well, his son, Solomon, was famous for his divine wisdom, diplomacy, and that whole splitting a baby in half shenanigan. He was so wise, in fact, that God gifted him a magical ring. A ring that gave him control over demons, spirits, animals, and even the wind. A power ring.
One ring to rule them all.
Or a Power Ranger.
Alright, let's do it now!
It's nothing to do with each other. Anyway, this isn't Solomon's story. It's the jinn we're here for. And as it turns out, they too fell under Solomon's jurisdiction. With his new ring, Solomon put rebellious jinn to work, building massive temples, finding hidden treasures, and even bending the elements to his will. If a jinn dared to rebel, off it went, sealed in a bottle or jar, locked away, buried, or tossed into the ocean. Solomon's jinn trapping system became legendary, a myth that would echo through the centuries, and it would mark the first step in the grand jinn transformation, but certainly not the last. So, how on earth did these fiery, misbehaving spirits transform into subservient, wish-granting companions? Folklore, of course. Over centuries, stories from the Middle East, Persia, and beyond blended together, eventually forming 1001 Nights, a collection packed with magic, adventure, and yes, jinn. They appear frequently and in a variety of roles in these tales. Funny enough, in the original compilation, very few stories feature a jinn trapped in a container. In fact, the only one I could find was The Fisherman and the Jinn. This tale follows a fisherman who, after a streak of bad luck, pulls up an old copper jar sealed with King Solomon's stamp from the ocean. When he opens it, a massive ifrit, a powerful and evil type of jinn, erupts from the jar, stretching to the sky in a plume of smoke. Wait, weren't they supposed to be made of smokeless fire? The ifrit thinks Solomon has returned to punish him, but when the fisherman explains that Solomon has been dead for centuries, the jinn's mood shifts from relieved to vengeful.
2,000 years ago, King Solomon, master of all the jinn, imprisoned me within that bottle.
See, in the first 100 years of his imprisonment, the Ifrit had promised to reward whoever freed him with kingship over the world. In the second 100 years, he promised untold riches. But by the 4th century of being trapped,
here's my imprisoned spirit turned to vengeance on all that lived and were free. And I swore that I'd kill him that freed me to satisfy that hate.
Granting the fisherman the only wish of choosing how he'd like to die. Very kind, I guess? But the fisherman is no fool. He pretends to doubt that such an enormous being could have ever fit inside such a tiny jar.
How comes it that you, as big as a mountain, could ever get into that bottle I can hold in my hand? You weren't ever in it, really, were you?
Of course I was.
Oh, no, you weren't.
I was.
And the Ifrit, eager to prove his power, shrinks back into the jar, at which point the fisherman slams the lid shut and throws it back into the ocean. While the story doesn't involve a wish-granting jinn, it does introduce a key idea. What if a jinn would reward its liberator? That tiny narrative twist, barely a flicker, would spark a complete rewrite on the jinn mythos. Because once that seed was planted, it didn't take long for Western storytellers to get involved. So, what about Aladdin, you say? Isn't Aladdin one of, if not the most popular story from 1001 Nights? And yes it is. But, fun fact, it wasn't originally a part of the collection. As it turns out, the first known version of Aladdin appeared in the 18th century, added by Anthony Galland.
I don't know.
Let's just call him Anthony. Anthony! A French scholar and translator. Anthony claimed he heard the story of Aladdin from a Syrian storyteller named Hanan Diab, who visited France in the early 1700s. Diab reportedly shares several tales not found in the Arabic manuscript, including Aladdin and Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. Recognizing their potential, Anthony inserted them into his French translation of 1001 Nights, and they became instant hits. Anthony's version, though likely modified from Diab's oral storytelling, is still vastly different from the Disney's adaptation most people know today. For one, Aladdin didn't take place in the Middle East. Instead, he's a poor young man living in China. Yeah, you heard right, I said China. Despite the fact that every other character, including the Sultan, the princes, and everybody else have Middle Eastern names and titles, and I don't know, there's no real explanation why China gets the cameo, but okay, let's roll with it, I guess. The story goes a bit like this. One day, Aladdin is approached by a sorcerer disguised as his long-lost uncle.
You idiot! I'm your uncle!
In all the years I was married to Mustafa, he never mentioned a brother.
I'm not surprised. We didn't get along.
The sorcerer convinces Aladdin to retrieve an old oil lamp from a magic cave, and he gives him a ring for protection.
If you get into trouble, rub this ring. It'll protect you. Now go!
Aladdin finds the lamp and, on his way out of the cave, refuses to hand it over to the sorcerer. Furious, the sorcerer traps Aladdin inside the cave and abandons him to die. Panicked and desperate, Aladdin accidentally robs the ring, and out pops a jinn. This jinn helps him escape the cave.
Greetings, friend.
Who are you?
I am Abdul, genie of the ring.
And so, once he's finally home, Aladdin robs the magic lamp, also accidentally, and this time, another far more powerful jinn appears, ready to serve its new master.
At last! Fresh air!
Yes, Aladdin gets 2 jinn in this story. There's a lot of accidental rubbing, I don't know. With the lamp's power, Aladdin becomes rich, marries the Sultan's daughter, and ultimately defeats the sorcerer. Aladdin never considers freeing the jinn, and they never ask, so there's that. They will forever serve Aladdin, granting his every wish. Unlike the fisherman and the jinn, where the Ifrit had a mind of his own and even tried to kill its liberator, these jinn have no autonomy. They must obey every command, making them more like the spirits controlled by King Solomon's seal than the independent, chaotic beings of early folklore. This shift mirrored European fairy tale traditions, where magic was often tied to enchanted objects like wands, rings, or fairy godmother's gifts, and used to fulfill a hero's desire. The idea of a wish-granting companion, rather than a free-willed supernatural force, became the new standard. And Anthony wasn't just translating, he was adapting. Lacking a direct equivalent in European folklore, Anthony had to reach back to Roman mythology. The Jinn, powerful invisible spirits with influence over fate, reminded him of the Roman guardian spirits tied to people, places, and destiny, named genies, plural, genie. So he made a creative leap. Jinn became genie. And from this moment on, Jinn as terrifying beings of fire and wind started to fade, making room for a new, more westernized version of the genie. Let's fast forward to the 19th century. Corsets are tight, mustaches are waxed, and Europe has a very specific obsession: the mystical East. This was peak Orientalism, a time when European scholars, artists, and colonial powers romanticized the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia as mysterious lands of magic, danger, and suspiciously transparent veils. So many transparent veils. In this fantasy, genies were no longer chaotic spirits made of fire. They'd become exotic, sensual, and conveniently submissive creatures, perfect for adventure, illustrations, and idealized novels. One of the main people responsible for this magical makeover? Not a novelist, but an explorer. Sir Richard Burton. No, not the brooding actor from the 60s. The other one, Victorian moustache enthusiast, translator, spy, and problematic figure infamous for the over-sexualization of the East. In 1885, Burton translated a 16-volume edition of 1001 Nights. His version was something else. While Anthony softened tales for polite European readers, Burton leaned hard into the erotic, the mystical, and the taboo.
Know, O master, that I am the slave of the lamp of Nador. You're the only one who can see me, and I'm yours to command in all things. Ask and it shall be given you, command and it shall be done.
His infamous footnotes and appendices didn't just raise eyebrows. They helped fuel harmful stereotypes and deeply misrepresent the cultures he claimed to translate. I would put some examples on screen, but after I read them myself, I really don't wanna, and I won't. In Burton's Eastern world, genies and pretty much everyone else became seductive enslaved creatures ready to serve their masters' every whim. These versions, though shaped in the 19th century, still echo today. And honestly, at this point, we're not talking about folklore anymore. We're talking about fantasy. Colonial fantasy. But the next big shift wouldn't come until the 20th century. And when it did, it sparkled. It was technicolor. And it never left the collective mind. Technology changed everything. Suddenly, film, TV, and a whole new visual language brought the genie into every household. Literature, stage plays, early cinema, heck, even popcorn got in on the action.
Make a wish, master.
Let's see some real magic.
That's easy. Watch.
Genie pop!
Now, genies became symbols of luxury, indulgence, and instant gratification. Got a wish? All you have to do is ask. And with this shift came a movie that would forever change the popular conception of genies. A film featuring a flying carpet, a villain named Jafar, and the ever-iconic 3-wish quota. I'm talking, of course, about The Thief of Baghdad, the 1940s version. There's also a 1924 film, but it has no genie, so we'll stick to the one that does. Our hero, a young street thief named Abu, who stumbles upon a mysterious lamp and accidentally unleashes a giant blue/green-faced genie. And yes, this is the same footage I used in the Fisherman and the Jinn section. I couldn't find better material, okay? So sue me.
Please don't.
Anyhow, Abu cleverly tricks this colossal Jinn into granting him 3 wishes in exchange for freedom.
Oh, great and merciful master, let me out and I'll grant you 3 wishes.
3 wishes?
Your first 3 wishes shall come true.
You swear?
I swear.
And thus, he ends up saving the day. The Thief of Baghdad did something no previous tale had quite nailed. It gave the Jinn a personality. He wasn't just a vessel of raw magical power. He was a character. Sure, he was moody and dramatic, but that's only because this was the beginning of his Hollywood makeover. From a terrifying force of nature to a reluctant, almost endearing magical sidekick. And then, in 1965, came I Dream of Genie. In I Dream of Genie, we meet a bombshell blonde trapped in a bottle, living in a bachelor pad, calling her astronaut master. And yes, falling in love with him because who wouldn't? This genie isn't chaotic or dangerous. She's whimsical, flirty, and loyal. Harmless even. As a kid, I loved this show. What can I say? All the romantic tropes, with lots and lots of magic. But the edge of the original Jinn? Gone. The chaos? Gone. The fire? Definitely gone. And it was this show that cemented the idea of a sexy genie. How? By divorcing the character completely from its original mythology.
This is a purely platonic relationship.
Oh, yes, purely platonic.
And you agreed to keep it on that basis because you knew it was the best way, right?
No, I agreed because I did not know what platonic meant.
What was once a force of chaos and power became a symbol of desire and wish fulfillment. And once exoticized and sexualized, especially when female, genies became easy vessels for stories about control, power, and fantasy. And finally, in 1992, something of massive importance happened. I was born! Happy birthday to me.
Is this why people are watching this video?
I don't know, but it is why I'm making it.
Yeah, I don't think that's why people tuned in. I think they're here for the salmon! Ah, the king!
In 1992, the genie went full blockbuster when Disney's Aladdin came to life. Robin Williams' genie changed the game. He wasn't just powerful, he was hilarious. A shape-shifting, fast-talking, pop-culture-quoting demigod with impeccable comedic timing. He borrowed Genie's comedic flair, and from The Thief of Baghdad, the balloonist, the villain, and the flying carpet. It was a mashup of magical influences. And it worked! The 3-wish limit, also used in The Thief of Baghdad, had already been popularized in the 19th century by Western authors like Edward William Lane. But it was Disney's Aladdin that etched it into the public imagination, turning it from a narrative convenience into official genie lore. And the old "be careful what you wish for" warning came roaring back when Jafar wished to become the most powerful genie in the world, only to get exactly what he wanted and end up imprisoned in a lamp himself. It became a Disney classic, played in every corner of the world, and this genie became the image that would define the figure for generations to come. And just like that, the transformation was complete. The chaotic, unpredictable Jinn of ancient lore became a lovable and sometimes sexy sidekick with a heart of gold. If Disney's Aladdin cemented the idea, I Dream of Genie paved the way. And pop music sealed the deal. I mean, who can forget Christina Aguilera's 90s classic? As we've seen, The genie has come to represent different things to different people. In the lands where they originated, Jinn aren't whimsical wish granters. They are literal beings dwelling at the boundary between the seen and unseen, largely indifferent to human affairs. And in recent years, their original nature has started to re-emerge, especially in horror films, reminding us that these aren't creatures to command, but forces to be reckoned with. For some, Jinn became the clever embodiment of every "be careful what you wish for" tale.
Here's the thing about wishes. The more you have, the more you want.
And in pop culture, the genie became a magical wish-granting sidekick, friendly, funny, sometimes flirty, and always confined, always granting someone else's dreams. The genie's journey reminds us that myths don't stay static. They travel, they transform, and they reflect the fantasies, fears, and fixations of the time. So next time you stumble across a dusty lamp or crack open a suspiciously ornate bottle, remember, whatever is trapped inside might not be what you expect, and in fact, it might even be expecting you. Have a nice day.